Hey guys, I hope everybody's doing well. I have been asked to do a video on some clarification for Edmentum. So here goes. First, you guys are doing the pretest. On the pretest, it just basically needs to figure out what you already know so that it does not make you redo stuff you already know how to do. So doing well on the pretest can exempt you from some of the activities. Just a heads up there. There is also a discussion on independent and conditional probability. This is talking about basketball and hot hand. My guys who play sports, if you've ever done like a 3-point shootout where you're just shooting threes over and over and over again, have you ever noticed that sometimes you just get what's called a hot hand? It means you just start making them and making them and making them and making them. It doesn't mean you're that good of a shooter. Just statistically, you get a hot hand just for a moment. So it's just talking about that. And seeing if that is a statistical thing or if that just happens from coincidence. So feel free to put your ideas there. But the three I want you to focus on this week are sample space, the addition rule, and the multiplication rule. Just a heads up, I have a toddler and a baby in the house, so there is a real good chance we're going to get interrupted. First, sample space. We actually talked about sample space in class. Sample space is all available options. Okay. Okay, baby. So, for instance, we did the ice cream example where we listed out all the combinations you could have of one flavor of ice cream and a set of toppings. Do you remember doing that on the board? In a deck of cards. Okay, baby, you gotta hold on. In a deck of cards, there are 52 cards. That means your sample space is all 52 cards. On a pair of dice or on a die, there are 6 faces. So the sample space for dice is 6. For a coin, you can get either heads or tails. The sample space is 2. So, etc. You're listing all of your possible options. Okay? Now, try not to get too messed up on their fancy notation. Sophia. Try not to get too messed up on all their fancy notation. Can you stop, please? Thank you, baby. That's all it is. It is literally listing out all of your options. Now, I do need you to know that all probability exists between 0 and 1. Hey, can you go in the living room, please? Please? If your probability is 0, that means there is absolutely no chance that's going to happen. If your probability is 1, that means it is 100% going to happen. Probability exists in between 0 and 1. So, for example, looking at die, you have a 1/6 chance of rolling a 1, a 1/6 chance of a 2, 1/6 to get a 3, 1/6 to get a 4, 1/6 to get a 1/6 to get a 5. And 1/6 to get a 6. When you add up your sample space, it equals 1. The reason is when I roll a die, there is a 100% chance I'm going to get either a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, or a 6. Absolutely going to happen. So that's how you figure out your probability. Like I said, try not to get too caught up on their fancy notation in the notes. In the beginning of the notes, it pretty much just gives you a little bit of history, tells you a story, gives you an example of something, and then it gives you the actual notes. But if you understand that sample space is just a list of all your options, it's not too bad. It also goes on to talk about complement. Complement is doing the opposite. Okay? Pretty much, I always use rain for the example. If there is a 40% chance it's going to rain, that means there is a 60% chance it will not rain. Okay? The opposite of raining is not raining. Okay? Just so you know, both of these have to add up to 100 no matter what. So thinking about a deck of cards, if I wanted to find the probability of getting a king, there are 4 kings in the deck out of 52. Okay. If I wanted the probability of the complement of getting a king, by the way, the notation for complement is a teeny little c. Basically the opposite of getting a king or not getting a king. There are 48 cards that are not kings out of 52. These two have to add up to 1. Okay. So you can either get a king, there's a 4 out of 52. You cannot get a king, that's complement, which is 48 out of 52. So I hope that helps you with complement. Some more terminology that we have talked about is mutually exclusive. These are things that cannot happen at the same time. For example, you cannot be a king and an ace at the same time. You cannot be a redhead and a blonde at the same time. On a dice, you cannot be a 3 and a 4 at the same time. Okay, these things cannot happen at the same time. Let me write that down. Shh, you're okay. Hold this. So anytime it's talking about something mutually exclusive, remember, these things cannot happen at the same time. So not mutually exclusive is obviously the opposite. These are things that can happen at the same time. For example, you can be a red and a queen at the same time. You can be a spade and a 4 at the same time. You can be a senior and a girl at the same time. Things like that. So these can happen at the same time. Now, your 2 rules that we're talking about are the addition rule and the multiplication rule. Multiplication rule is super simple. Multiplication rule just says anytime you see and, if I want something and something else to happen, I'm going to multiply. So for example, if I am going to flip a coin and roll a die, if I want to get a head and a 4, so head on the die, or head on the coin, 4 on the die, I have a 1/2 chance of getting a head. And is our multiplication rule, so I'm going to multiply. And to get a 4 on a dice is out of 6, so I have a 1 in 12 chance of getting a head and a 4. Hey, baby. Here you go. Another thing, there's a lot of deck of cards in here, so if I wanted to get, we'll say a 6. By the way, this is the symbol for and. I'm not sure if they use that symbol. Okay, it looks like an upside down U. If I wanted to get a 6 and a, we'll go queen. We'll go spade. Okay, so I'm drawing 2 cards. If I want a 6 and a spade, the probability of getting a 6 is 4 out of 52. Okay, we're doing with replacement, which means I put it back. So I put that back. And then this time I want a spade, so 13 out of 52. If I did not put that card back, it would be out of 51. Keep that in mind, guys. 4 times 13. I do not have a calculator on me. Give me a second. Is 52. And then 52 times 52 is 2704. Okay. So if I want to draw 2 cards, I'm putting it back. So we'll say with replacement. I have a 52 out of 2,074 chance of getting a 6, putting it back, and then getting a spade. So anytime it's asking about the multiplication rule, or anytime you see and, it is a probability of something and something else, you multiply. That's all it is. Okay, we also have the addition rule. Actually, you know what? This is a 10-minute video. I'm going to put the addition rule in a separate video because this one's a little bit more complicated and I don't want to run out of time. These videos limit you to 15 minutes. Hey, baby. So, like I said, this is sample space and multiplication rule. So if you need any help with those, feel free to go back and watch this as much as you want. Remember, hey, baby, it's okay. You can pause it and take notes. Don't feel like you have to just keep watching 10 minutes over and over and over again. Pause it, take notes. And if you do badly on this, remember guys, I can keep resetting it until you get a good grade. So do not stress this. It is going to be okay. But I will see you guys in the next video.